All right, so we've got a stack of Runnymede School District Chromebook information for you today. We've got the abridged acceptable use policy, the Chromebook user agreement.
It's definitely a lot to wade through.
It is, especially if it's your first time dealing with this whole thing. So we're going to break it all down, make sure you understand the key points.
And maybe even uncover some things you wouldn't have caught just reading it on your own.
Yeah, and we'll pull in some insights from the Runnymede School District website, too, to kind of give you that bigger picture.
It's like your cheat sheet to Chromebook policies.
I like that. Okay, so let's jump in.
Let's do it.
One of the first things that pops up in both the AUP and the user agreement is that Chromebooks are mainly for educational use, as directed by teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, on the surface, absolutely. But it's interesting to think about how that idea of educational use is changing so rapidly with all this online learning happening and different platforms, even virtual reality.
Yeah.
Those lines are getting blurrier and blurrier. That's true. What's educational today might look totally different in a few years.
Oh, totally. So, in a way, these policies are almost like a snapshot in time.
Exactly. And it's something for parents to keep in mind.
Yeah.
These documents are a starting point.
Right.
But the conversation about technology and learning, that's ongoing.
Definitely ongoing. Okay, so let's talk about that whole digital responsibility aspect.
Okay.
The AUP spends a lot of time talking about creating a positive online community, addressing things like cyberbullying. You know, it's not just about academics anymore. It's about digital citizenship.
And that's becoming so crucial. We're seeing a real push for schools to take a leading role in teaching kids how to navigate the online world responsibly and respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the research is pretty clear that things like cyberbullying can have a serious impact on kids' mental health and well-being.
Oh, absolutely.
So schools are recognizing that they need to be more proactive in addressing these issues.
It makes you wonder if they're almost taking on the role that parents used to have.
Yeah.
When it comes to teaching these kinds of skills.
In some ways, yes. But it's really more of a partnership, I think.
Okay.
Schools can provide that framework,
Mm-hmm.
but that open communication between parents and kids, that's still essential.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is where things might get a little tricky.
Okay.
The AUP mentions that student activity is monitored through district software.
Right.
How does that work exactly? Like, what are they looking for?
That's a good question. The specifics can vary from district to district.
Okay.
But generally, schools are looking for things that could disrupt the learning environment or pose a safety risk.
Okay.
So think website visits, search terms, even emails in some cases.
Wow.
Things like cyberbullying, harassment, inappropriate contents.
So there's a balance to strike there, right? Between keeping kids safe
Absolutely.
and respecting their privacy.
Absolutely. And that's where those open conversations with your kids become so important.
Yeah.
Explaining why the monitoring is in place, what kinds of things they're looking for, and how to stay safe online. It's about building trust, making sure they feel comfortable coming to you if they have questions or concerns.
All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the Chromebooks themselves.
Okay.
The user agreement lays out some pretty clear rules about caring for these devices, no food or drinks, avoid extreme temperatures, basically common sense stuff.
Right. But even with common sense things happen. I've seen some Chromebook mishaps over the years.
Okay, so tell me about it. I'm ready for a good Chromebook disaster story.
Well, one that sticks out in my mind is a Chromebook that came back from summer break, completely warped.
What?
Turns out it had been stored up in an attic where temperatures got over 100 degrees.
Oh, no.
It was basically a melted plastic brick.
So those extreme temperature warnings are no joke.
No, they're not. And it's a good reminder that even though these devices are designed for students, they're still sophisticated pieces of technology and they need to be treated with care.
The user agreement also mentions reporting any damage as soon as possible using a specific online form. I'm guessing there are consequences if you don't.
There can be. It really comes down to shared responsibility.
Okay.
The school is providing these Chromebooks as a learning tool.
Right.
But students and parents, they need to do their part to keep them in working order.
Mm-hmm.
Unreported damage could lead to delays in getting that device fixed, which could impact a student's learning.
That makes sense. And while we're on the topic of responsibility, the user agreement is very clear about bringing a fully charged Chromebook to school every day.
Oh, yes.
I bet that's a bigger challenge than it sounds.
You have no idea for teachers. It's like the never-ending battle against that low battery notification.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's really important for the learning process.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine trying to teach a lesson when half the class can't participate?
Oh, totally.
Because their Chromebooks are dead. It just throws everything off.
That's a really good point, and it makes you appreciate all the behind-the-scenes work that goes into managing these devices. It's not just handing out laptops. It's a whole logistical operation.
It really is, and parents might not always realize that the amount of effort that goes into making sure that those devices are working properly and ready for learning every day.
Okay, now let's talk about the part that everyone loves. money.
Months.
Who pays for what when it comes to Chromebook costs?
The user agreement breaks it down pretty clearly. Parents or guardians are financially responsible for any intentional damage.
Okay, and they even give a cost breakdown in their quarter. Frequently asked questions, a full replacement is $400, a new charger is $40, and a cracked screen will set you back $100.
Wow. Yeah, those costs can add up quickly,
They can.
which is why it's so important to emphasize careful handling and responsible use with your kids.
And on the flip side, the school is responsible for repairs due to normal wear and tear. What exactly does that mean?
Normal wear and tear basically refers to the expected deterioration of the device that happens just over time with regular use.
Okay,
So think, minor scratches, worn out keys, things like that.
got it.
It doesn't include things like cracked screens or liquid damage
Right.
or anything that results from misuse or neglect.
So there's a little bit of a judgment call there, right? Like, how do they decide what's accidental versus intentional damage?
Each case is evaluated individually by the school administration.
Okay.
They look at the type of damage, the student's explanation, any other relevant information.
So transparency and open communication are key.
Absolutely. If there's an issue, don't hesitate to reach out to the school and discuss it.
Now, the user agreement encourages parents to get their students' username and password so they can monitor usage at home.
Mm-hmm.
This probably sparks some debate, right?
It definitely does. It's a sensitive topic that touches on privacy, trust, parental oversight. There are strong opinions on both sides.
So how can parents approach this in a way that respects their child's privacy while still ensuring their online safety?
I think it starts with open and honest conversations.
Yeah.
Talk to your kids about your concerns. Explain why you want to monitor their activity and set clear expectations. It's also important to be mindful of their age and maturity level.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. What works for a fifth grader might not be appropriate for a high school student. The key is to find a balance that works for your family
Yeah.
and fosters a healthy and responsible digital environment at home.
Let's take a look at the Moneywood School District website's homepage. Their mission statement really jumped out at me. Our mission is to provide a successful educational experience for all children through a comprehensive academic and character education program.
It's a great mission statement, and I think it's important to consider how these Chromebook policies fit into that bigger picture.
Yeah,
Technology is a powerful tool for learning, but it also comes with responsibilities.
right.
These policies are designed to ensure that technology is used effectively and ethically to support that mission.
The website also highlights other resources for parents like meal applications, the budget lead water testing results. It's all about transparency and making that information accessible.
Which is so important for building trust and fostering a sense of community.
Yeah.
When parents feel informed and connected, it creates a more positive and supportive environment for everyone.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we move on,
Yeah.
before we move on,
Before we move on, there's one more detail in the Chromebook user agreement that I think is worth highlighting.
okay,
It often gets overlooked,
okay.
but it's really important in tying together everything we've been talking about.
I'm all ears. What is it?
It's the recommendation that Chromebooks be used in a common family location at home, ideally where some level of adult supervision is possible.
So it's not just about responsible use at school. They're trying to extend that to the home environment.
Exactly. And it goes back to those conversations we were having about healthy tech habits for families.
Yeah.
It's not about banning technology
Right.
or hovering over your kids' shoulders every minute.
Right.
It's about creating a healthy balance and encouraging responsible use.
Which makes sense because, let's be real, technology is everywhere these days.
Everywhere.
It's part of our lives, both at school and at home.
And it's only going to become more integrated as technology keeps evolving.
Yeah.
So those open and honest conversations about tech use, setting boundaries, and creating a culture of responsible digital citizenship at home,
Right.
those become even more crucial.
I think that's a great point. Understanding these Chromebook policies is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to navigating technology in education.
It really is about the bigger picture, preparing our kids for a world that is increasingly driven by technology. And that's a journey that needs collaboration between students, parents, and schools.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Runnymbede's Chromebook policies, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What do they really need to walk away understanding?
The key takeaway is that these policies are about more than just rules and regulations. They're about fostering responsibility, promoting digital citizenship.
Right.
and making sure that technology is being used effectively to support student learning.
And remembering that open communication is key.
Absolutely.
If you've got questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to the school. They're there to help navigate this ever-evolving world of technology and education.
Now, thinking about the future of education and technology, this feels like a good moment for a thought-provoking question for our listener.
Ooh, I love where this is going to hit me with it.
Okay, with technology evolving at such a rapid pace, how do you think these Chromebook policies might change in the future?
Wow.
And what role should parents play in shaping those changes?
That's a great question to ponder. The way we use technology is constantly shifting, and it's important for schools and families to be adaptable and proactive in
Absolutely.
responding to those changes.
Yeah.
It's not about predicting the future perfectly, but about staying engaged and informed.
Exactly. These policies are a solid foundation,
Yeah,
but it's up to all of us to make sure they stay relevant and effective.
right.
As technology continues to shape the educational landscape, we can't just set these policies and forget about them. We need to be in constant dialogue about
Yeah.
how they're working, what needs to be adjusted, and how we can best prepare students for the future.
Well said. So to officially wrap up our deep dive into the Runnymede School District's Chromebook policies, thanks for joining us. We hope this has cleared up some of the confusion and given you the information you need to make informed decisions.
It's been my pleasure.
And remember, knowledge is power. Understanding these policies empowers parents to have productive conversations with their kids about responsible technology use.
It's not just about following the rules, it's about equipping our kids to be responsible digital citizens in a world that's increasingly reliant on technology.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We've officially navigated the maze of Chromebook policies.
We did it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep those questions coming, stay engaged with your child's school, and together we can make technology a positive force for good in education.
It's been a fascinating deep dive, hasn't it? I feel like we've really unpacked not just the specifics of Runnymede's policies, but also some of the bigger questions surrounding technology and education today.
It's definitely not just about the devices themselves. It's about how we prepare students for a world where technology is constantly changing the way we live, work, and interact with each other.
You know, as we were talking about those potential future changes to the policies, it made me realize that we all have a role to play in shaping that future. It's not just up to the schools to figure it out.
Exactly. Parents, educators, policymakers, even the students themselves.
Yeah,
We all need to be part of the conversation, and that conversation needs to be ongoing.
right.
Technology isn't static, so our approach to it can't be either.
So what would you say is the most important thing for listeners to take away from this deep dive, besides, of course, a solid understanding of Runnymede Chromebook policies?
I think the most important takeaway is the idea of shared responsibility.
Okay.
The success of these policies and the success of integrating technology into education in a meaningful way really depends on everyone working together.
Mm-hmm.
Schools provide the resources and the framework parents guide and support their children at home, and students need to step up and be responsible digital citizens.
That's a great way to put it. It's a team effort, and open communication is the glue that holds it all together.
Couldn't agree more. When parents, students, and schools are all on the same page, communicating openly and working towards the same goals, that's when technology can truly become a powerful tool for learning and growth.
Well said. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I hope so, and I hope they feel empowered to not just understand these policies, but also to engage in those important conversations about the role of technology in education.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning of the journey, and we're all in this together. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Runnymede's Chromebook policies. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration. We've come to the end of our deep dive into the Runnymede School District Chromebook policies.
It really has been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has, and I think it's safe to say we've learned a lot.
Definitely more than just the ins and outs of the policies themselves.
Right. It sparked some broader thinking about the role of technology in education. You know, what works, what doesn't work, and where we might be headed in the future.
It feels like that conversation is always evolving.
It is, isn't it?
As technology changes, so too does our understanding of how it can best be used to support student learning.
And speaking of the future, any thoughts on what parents can do to be proactive? You know, not just reactive to whatever tech challenges come up next.
That's such an important question. I think the key is staying informed and engaged.
Okay.
Don't just wait for the school to send home a new policy or for a problem to arise. Be curious, ask questions, talk to your kids about their experiences with technology both at school and at home.
So it's about being part of that ongoing dialogue.
Exactly, and advocating for what you believe is best for your child and for the school community as a whole.
It's almost like we've come full circle back to that idea of shared responsibility.
Absolutely. This isn't just on the schools or on the parents, it's a collaborative effort.
And it's not just about saying yes or no to technology. It's about being thoughtful and intentional about how we integrate it into our lives and into our children's education.
Well said. It's about finding that balance between harnessing the incredible power of technology while also being mindful of its potential pitfalls.
We've covered a lot of ground today, everything from those day-to-day Chromebook care tips to the bigger picture issues of digital citizenship and responsible technology use.
And hopefully, we've given our listeners a better understanding not only of Runnemed's Chromebook policies, but also of the complexities and opportunities that technology presents in the world of education.
I think we've definitely achieved that, so as we sign off, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep those conversations going. The future of education is being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play in making sure it's a bright one.
Good to say it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Runnymede School District's Chromebook policies. We'll catch you next time for another insightful exploration of the world of education.